Thank you, PJ. It is time for another edition of the Pair and a Spare podcast. I'm Justin Gaard from The Fan, Randy Byrne from Sports Byline USA, and from Football Across Minnesota and America and London, Chip Scoggins from the Star Tribune. We are presented, as always, by Jack's Cafe. Make your reservations at jackscafe.com. That's jaxcafe.com. Happy bye week, post-bye week, everybody. It was weird to not have a Gopher football game to talk about. I did a lot of yard work. I assume Burnsy was in a tree somewhere, and we know the commissioner of Ames, Iowa, was at 100%, probably had a portable phone charger, and was playing beer games with one of his many children and one of these many Father's weekends. How's everybody doing?
Did you get a deer, Randy Byrne?
Short story, no. There'll be a longer story one day with this one. There's a legend brewing on my hunting land, but I think I'm more interested to hear, Chip, how many beer games did you play and which beer games did you learn?
Oh wait, somebody just emailed me. I played
keep your
one
attention there, Chipper.
I know. I saw Pair and a Spare come up on my email. I played one. I played the do you call it die or dice, where you throw it real high in the air and you got to land it on the table? Have you seen that game played?
I mean, maybe. What's the objective of the game besides just throwing it up
So
in the air
there's
and
a
landing on the
table.
table?
Yeah, so there's a table, I would say about the size of a ping pong table with a line, and you got you and a partner, and you the kids are good at this game. I was not so good. It's all in the technique in trying
Those
to get
young whippersnappers.
Yeah, you can tell they've played a lot. You try to throw the dice. You have one dice, and you throw it high in the air. It has to land on the table across the line, and then they try to catch it as it bounces, right? If they catch it, you don't get a point. If they don't catch it, you get a point. It can spin back, and if it goes through the cups that are in the table, that's 2 points. It's all these rules, but it's a fun game. It's all technique. You got to get it high, and you got to. Those kids can get spin on it where it spins off the table at weird angles and you can't catch it. So that was fun.
Did you play any beer pong or flip cup, or do the kids not even know what those are these days?
No, they know. I'm sure they know what it is. I did not do that. The back, so they had a tailgate at my son's fraternity in the back parking lot there, and they had the bags going. But that was pretty full there. So we just did the. They call it die, but you're throwing dice. I think they're saying dice. I don't know.
So does it matter what it lands on? Like if it lands on the number is irrelevant?
No.
Like 3, 4, 5?
Well, I don't know that it ever stays on the table. I didn't see it stay on the table one time. So it's not like the number doesn't matter. It's just you try to bounce it so they can't catch it.
I'll tell you.
And there is something. I'm not going to say it here. There is something that if it lands in the cup, you have to do. I'll share that off air. But
I think I'm guessing that involves nudity and running around the house. that would be my guess.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
so
good.
It was fun, and I'd never been to a Iowa State game. Fun game. They
comeback.
They played about as poorly as you could play. Should have been 2 pick sixes, but the kid returning the second pick six drops the ball as he's starting to celebrate coming into the end zone at the 1 yard line, and it goes out of bounds. So they get the ball at the 1 yard line and run in, but it should have been 2 pick sixes. Their run defense was horrible, but just a cool. I love going to stadiums that I've never been to. Great tailgating at Iowa State. Tremendous tailgating areas. Just kind of as far as you can see people tailgating. I thought the stadium was cool. The in-stadium show and music and all that was great. So it was a fun time. Yeah, it was really cool.
And you made it back, and now you have a game.
And I made it back.
Your wife and you can play on the weekends now. You guys can play your own one-on-one die or dice. We're not exactly sure.
Yeah, I don't know that I'll play it again, but I lost. I only played it one game. I lost its first one to 11 in a stunning upset. The young guys who play pretty much 5 hours a day every day, I think, after class. We're professionals, and I was just a novice. So
yeah, well, good for you. Good for you. Home court advantage for the young bucks. All right, well, Burnsy, it doesn't sound like you want to talk hunting, so we won't do that. And let's just get right into some college football talk, I guess. Where do you guys want to start? I kind of want to start with Texas
Tennessee.
and Georgia. No, we're not going to start there. We're not going to start there. You want to talk about an ugly game? My goodness, I don't know if you saw much of that one, but yeah, it was turnovers and turnovers and turnovers, and obviously Tennessee ends up winning. But Texas, Alabama, I really wanted the story, guys. I was watching it. We were at a hockey parents gathering, not playing dice or die, just breaking down some things. It wasn't too bad. It's Chip knows, and Burns, you won't understand this, but when you get to our age, and Chip's gone through this, you don't pick your own friends. Your kids pick your friends by what sports they play and which parents you get to hang out with. So we have no say in who we hang out with socially because we really don't have a lot of options. So, but luckily, we have a good group of parents in the Mite 3 team or the Mite 2 team, whatever he's on. And so we were hanging out, and we're watching Texas, Georgia, and Georgia's just putting it on them, right? In Austin, it's getting meaty. And my dream was that Arch Manning, Chip's guy, was going to come in and lead this epic comeback for the ages after the starter, Quinn Ewers, really could do nothing. And that lasted one series. I think young Arch got one series before they went back to the veteran, quote unquote veteran. But it was another wild weekend in the sense that you think you have it all figured out. You think you know who's good. And all of a sudden, Georgia's going into Austin and just boat racing the Longhorns, and who knows who's good. I think Oregon's ranked number 1 right now, and I feel like nobody believes in them, even though they just beat Ohio State. Like, everyone's like, well, yeah, Oregon's won for now. We'll see how it all shakes out. It's just another example of how crazy this thing is going to be this year.
Well, I said before Ohio State lost at Oregon, I thought the two best teams were Texas and Ohio State. Clearly, you shouldn't count out a championship program like Georgia to put that kind of performance on down there. And it was, they were up, was it 20-something nothing?
And a half.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah, I don't know if you guys think it's the portal effect that have made more teams competitive and kind of lowered the bar from where in recent years, it's either been nobody's touching Alabama or nobody's touching Georgia, and those two, just one or two clearly superior teams than everyone else. But I don't know if it's maybe you guys, the portal is spreading the wealth, so to speak, in terms of talent. I don't know.
I think you're seeing that in the top teams. I think you're seeing that in the Big Ten, which we'll get to, because the depth that used to be there for the Alabamas and the Georgias and the Texases just sitting there, players 45 to 85 that are these 4 and 5-star kids that aren't playing yet. Those kids don't want to wait anymore. Or if they do, they're just going to transfer out after a couple of years, and you're starting to see the wealth distribution get a little bit wider and a little bit wider, which is why you see results such as this one where everybody has it pegged that Texas is going to boat race, and then they're down 23-0.5. Think about this. Georgia won a game by 2 touchdowns, and Carson Beck had 0 touchdowns and 3 interceptions.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Georgia's defense really came to play in this one, but it's also, I think, so much of it that we're learning now that we're over halfway through the season. All these teams have played 7 or 8 games. It's just where you at depth-wise, especially at this part of the schedule. And everybody has enough tape on you now we can see who is the really good coaches and who can make adjustments and who aren't the really good coaches and need to probably take a look in the mirror.
Well, I'll say this. I watched the Iowa State, and they were 9th in the country going into that game, and I can tell you they did not look like the 9th best team in college football that night. They couldn't. Neither other lines were very good, I thought. They couldn't stop the run, and their offense line went very good. So there might not be, unlike most years, there might not be a big difference between, the best teams and the 15th best teams. I just think this is what we wanted, right?
And the playoff, right?
Yeah. Well, this is what we wanted because I think at least for the, as Guardsy calls them, the fence sitters or the casuals or the observers, the common knock was, well, there's no parity in college football. And people even said, even though you're expanding it, you're adding more teams, but you're not necessarily taking away the parity problem because you're still going to have the top 2 or 3 teams that are going to play for the national title. I don't know that that's necessarily the case this year.
I will die on the hill of this is why you're seeing as much parity is not because of the expanded playoff. It's because of the transfer portal. It's because these kids don't want to sit and wait. And so they're going to go somewhere else. You look at even some of the kids that Minnesota has. You have some FCS guys that are playing up, Ethan Robinson, Max Brosmer, but you've also got other players where it's like, okay, well, everybody's got a chance now. And that's where it's like you look at a team like Michigan right now. We'll talk about Michigan, Illinois, but if you want to talk about the transfer portal, is there a more egregious thing that a team did in all of the Big Ten than Michigan not addressing their quarterback room? Unbelievable.
The day Gophers played them, I texted you both and I said they'll lose 2 or 3 more games, and I undersold it because they may lose 5 more games.
Yep.
You might be able to beat some teams playing offense that way with a guy who's not a quarterback, but that's not going to work. And you lost JJ McCarthy, but you would think at Michigan you have a 4 or 5 star guy just sitting behind, or you go to the portal and get somebody. When I saw the offense they were running against Minnesota, it's like that's not going to work.
It's a good thing Dave Portnoy has said he's going to donate multi-millions of dollars for this.
$1
next
to $3
portal.
million. Yeah, $1 to $3 million.
That's what he said.
Yeah. So Michigan can always have a top flight first round type quarterback, which good. That's the way of the world, right?
That's it. When we say portal, when we say portal, we should say /NIL, right?
Yeah. Oh, for sure, especially a quarterback. But I think to your point, though, the playoff, I can't wait for the playoff. Like I can't. First of all, I can't wait to figure out who's going to be in it, because that's going to be a wild ride with how many different 1- and 2-loss teams we're going to have. I mean, Indiana has a legitimate shot to make the playoff. I don't think they can lose more than 1 game, and they play Ohio State. But
I looked at their schedule. Did you see their schedule?
I've seen their schedule all year. It's the easiest schedule I've ever seen.
If they don't finish 10, and now they lost their quarterback, so that changes things. But had they had him, you look at it, they get Michigan at home. That should be a win.
It should be.
Now they have Ohio State. I think at Ohio State,
That's
but
there.
They have to be looking at 10-2 at the worst.
I mean, that offense just in general. I mean, I didn't see that beatdown coming against Nebraska. I mean, they were playing hot 100%. But when you have an offense in rhythm like they were the entire time, and they lost their quarterback to the thumb injury. Now I think it's come out today. He's undergone some sort of surgery, but he should be back maybe in next week.
Yeah,
so they'll only be without him.
I didn't see that.
Week.
Yeah,
okay. But the backup comes in. They continue to put a slacking on Nebraska. I mean, they are just white hot right now. If they didn't have Indiana on the front of their jerseys, by the way, they'd be a top 10 ranked team right now.
Yeah,
there are not,
and
whatever how many teams there are ahead of them, there are not that many. There shouldn't be.
They're good, and we've always said it. And Iowa's been the ones that have done this. It's like when you get the schedule, the favorable schedule, you have to take advantage of it. That's the year you have. And the Gophers didn't a couple years ago when they had that schedule. We're like, this is the schedule you have to make good on. Do you think there will be a 3-loss team in the playoff? From
the SEC, perhaps. I think that's the only chance. I don't think there's a Big Ten team that would be in there. Because, I mean, really, let's talk about who we think are legitimate playoff contenders at this point. It's Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State, and Indiana. Right? It's those 4. We're not missing anybody, are we, Burnsy?
No.
It's those 4 from the Big Ten. Obviously, with the SEC, you've got Texas because they're SEC, which is funny. Tennessee, Georgia. Okay, is there anybody else in that mix that we're missing?
LSU.
What's their record?
I think they're like the 8th team in the country. So here, I think it might be easier if I just my guy Bud Elliott over here at 24/7 put out his projected his playoff projections right now. So he's got your top 4 seeds is say Georgia, Ohio State, Miami, because again they're doing the conference thing.
Yep.
Yeah, that's where the ACC and the Big 12, and that's where Iowa State would be the 4 seed right now. Now, your at-large teams, he's got Oregon, LSU, Texas, Notre Dame, Clemson, Penn State, Indiana, and Boise State. Now, Boise State is, again, they have
the group. And a group of 5 has to be in there because it's the top 5, right?
But to guard
conference winners,
you still got Tennessee within that 12 that are still alive. Tennessee, Bama, Kansas State, Texas A&M, Ole Miss, Illinois is still technically alive here. They're 6-1, boys.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of teams still in the mix here, and this is what we were hoping for. This is what
who you didn't mention. You know who I'm pulling for to sneak in there somehow. The winner of the Army-Navy game.
Yeah. I mean, they could be your group of 5. Boys.
Yeah,
they're both undefeated right now. Army's an absolute wagon, and I would 1,000% lobby for that as long as I possibly could.
Yeah. Are you doing a game this year?
No, that's a sore subject at the fan.
Oh, are you kidding me? First time in how many years you're not doing it?
No, I haven't done it for the last couple because of women's hoops.
But
about a week and a half ago, I looked at Nordo and I said, "Hey, I don't think we got the Army Navy invite this year." And he looked at me and he said, "Yeah, we got it. Creasel and I are going." And I said, because Creasel took my place the one year I couldn't go. And by the way, people that don't know John Creasel,
I love Crease. He's my
Iraq
guy.
war veteran. He lost his legs in an IED accident. He's an absolute legend, and he's perfect to go to Army Navy.
Yep.
And I just go, I did the Glenn Mason. I said, that's interesting. Because I remember in 2013 when Chad Abbott said, "Who do you think should go to Army Navy with you?" I said, "You know what? Nordo just got here. Let's bring him into the family. Let's let him get, blow off some steam with me." It was in Baltimore that year. I said, let me look at this. Look what's down here. I mean, I got my Army Navy scarf.
That's my bucket list, man. It's my bucket list.
I got my Army Navy football. I've got a couple of helmets here. I've got hotel keys. These are the coins that they give you. I don't know if you can see that.
Oh, man. So they give that to the media covering it?
Yeah, so it's a great deal. Maybe we'll talk about it at the time. I still might try to make a play and just go because I can get a credential. They wouldn't pay for it. The USAA is the one who puts us up there. But to answer, so now what I'm doing, guys, and you'll appreciate this because you know me, every time after every game for Army and Navy, they keep winning. So there's these Army Navy game tweets talking about how it's all coming together at Washington, D.C. I just send them to Nordo. I send my last 4 texts to Nordo have been all Army Navy, and he's just like, "I'm sorry." I'm like, I just remember, 11 years ago when I was in charge. They said, "Who do you think we should invite?" I said, "Nordo. We should bring Nordo. He deserves it. It'd be good to welcome him into the family. He just started working 9 to noon." That's the thanks I get. Just
oh man,
not even a "Hey, can you go?" It's just, "Oh, we got the invite." Burnsy, you're doing that face that ended up on Gopher Illustrated.
That's right.
You need to be careful.
Well, I got
so anyway. I'm not going. Should I be mad? This is a tangent now.
Well, Creasel's my friend. Love Creasel. So
me too.
If it was anyone else, I would probably say throw a fit.
Yeah.
But man, if they're undefeated, and that's like
because the game is always awesome. As
I know that's.
But when they're both good, I think it's happened twice in the 7 or 8 times that I've gone.
Yeah.
It does add so much. It's always an awesome game, and it should be on people's bucket list. But what if that game is to theoretically, be in the mix for the playoffs?
I know. Well, so when I retire and or win the lottery, I'm going to spend my dying days going to just college football weekends. And my wife's on board. She's totally wants to do this too. But that game's on my bucket list, high on my bucket list. Might be one.
It should be.
Red River Shootout. I want to go to that at the fairgrounds. I want to do the game. I want to do Ohio State, Michigan. Yeah. Those 3
Minnesota Lindenwood. You told me that. Minnesota.
I was thinking Minnesota Northwestern State next year.
That's right. Gophers at Purdue. I can't wait for that one. No.
Well, hey, you coming to Champaign with us here in a couple weeks?
No.
Lavelle's going.
Lavelle
is making a trip to his alma mater.
We do that. We do that amongst columnists when there's a chance to go see family or return home. The columnist gets that.
By the way, this is going to take us on an even further tangent. Is it true? I heard it on the Power Trip this morning. Lavelle's the only person who didn't vote for Caitlin Clark as Rookie of the Year.
Oh, Burnsy, come on.
No, that's not true. Come on.
All right.
That's the whole Pedro Martinez. Yeah.
Yeah. Lavelle doesn't have a vote.
All right,
in the
making
WNBA, but it's because he didn't vote Pedro Martinez for MVP or Cy Young.
MVP. Yeah, it was MVP.
Yeah, I've heard about his
because
his thoughts.
That was it's the 20th. I believe it's the 25th anniversary of it, right?
20th. I think it's the 20th because I thought it was 04.
No, because it was 99. Wasn't it 99?
I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's
Yeah,
irrelevant.
yeah, but
that's what I call a Mike Grimm detail that derails a story that does not matter to the actual.
you worry about that.
Yeah, we're bogging down, and you guys both know it. We're bogging down into something that's irrelevant.
I
but
know.
so Lavelle, so that's been the bit, and people that aren't necessarily locked in all the time, like Randy Byrne, go for it, and then now that become. This is how fake news gets spread, Ryan. This is how fake news gets spread. Misinformation.
I'm the king of fake news, you know that.
And we're the part of the problem. So anyway, the playoff. This Nordo thing's not going away, by the way, because I'm going to be relentless on it.
Yeah.
And it's in Washington, D.C., too, which I always love going to D.C. and doing the monuments and doing the National Mall. So, yeah, I'm bitter. And there's no Gopher women's basketball games that weekend because he's like, could you even go? And I'm like, yeah, weekend's available. And most important, as Burnsy knows, my wife, like a year ago, was like, I think you should start going back to that. Like, you really like that. Why wouldn't you go back to that? And I'm like, okay.
Well,
look at
use
that.
some frequent flyer miles. Use some frequent flyer miles and go, man.
Yeah, but I mean, like, how long is Kreese going to milk his service to the country? I mean, that's the other thing. You know, it's like, I mean, we get it. You're a war hero, but I mean, speaking of 20 years ago, I mean, what have you done for me lately, Kreese? Actually, but he is the greatest.
Oh, he'll be great there. Yeah.
And they loved him. When he went a couple of years ago, everybody there loved him because he's the best, as we all know.
Yeah.
All right, so the playoff. Sorry about that 9-minute tangent. Go for Illustrated.com.
we do.
Mad. So to answer your original question from 15 minutes ago, Chip, now that we've talked it out, no, I don't think a three-loss team can make it.
Yeah.
I don't think they can do that in year one either. I think, maybe in a couple of years, depending on where it is, and depending on who the teams were and what the schedules are, because I think those are going to change in the next few years. If you had 3 losses and they were all the top 5 teams or teams that were going to be in the playoff, which, by the way, is definitely possible if these leagues stay the way they are and the Big Ten and SEC actually do commit to playing each other in the regular season for the TV networks, I think you might start to see that, but I don't think this year you will. I think 2 would be the absolute max, given the teams that we just laid out.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, there's going to be some, obviously, massive games in November, which is what, this is what you want in the drama of in more markets. It used to be just in a couple markets. Now you're going to have more markets that are, I know Tennessee still has to play Georgia, and there's going to be some just colossal matchups in the Big Ten that, for all intents and purposes, are elimination games from the mix. So it's going to be fun coming down the stretch once we get here in the final month.
I just like that you can lose a game now and be okay.
Yes.
Like, you can lose a game. Yeah. You could maybe lose 2, depending upon who the 2 are. But that's what's going to make the entire month of November. And, heaven forbid, Minnesota has an Indiana-like season here in the next couple of years. The amount of people in that 10 to 25 range that are going to be tuning in to see, especially once these rankings start to drop. I mean, this is what everybody wanted.
And I don't know that we're at the point where the 12th seed would be able to win it, or even the 10th seed. But would you be stunned if the 7th seed, and we don't know who that's going to be,
wins it? 12 could win it. I mean, truthfully, because they'll have to beat the 4 and the 5, which hypothetical. The 12 is LSU, the 5 is Oregon, and the 4 is Iowa State. Like, the 5 is more difficult than the 4.
But I'm saying is, like, do you think Boise State's going to win the national title, or Army if they get in, or Navy?
I mean, probably not, but at least you get to have the opportunity to see if they can get past the first round to take on.
Oh, sure.
Juggernaut.
Yeah, I think those teams could certainly win a game, but are they going to beat 3 of those? I don't know yet, but I just think that, like I was saying earlier, it's like in years past, it's like nobody's beating Georgia. Everybody's playing for second.
Right.
Nobody's beating Alabama. Everybody's playing for second.
Clemson had that run.
Or Clemson had that run. Now it's just
unbeatable. Yep.
Like, would you be surprised if Oregon won it? Texas, Georgia, Penn State, Ohio State. If you sat here and said one of those teams is going to win it, I'd be like, okay, yeah, I can see it happening. Miami, just I just think that we're seeing what we've all wanted to see, and maybe it took the portal happening, maybe it took NIL to even this out some. But this is good for. I think it's healthy for. People might disagree that the portal's healthy for college football, but in terms of parity, I think it is.
Yeah. Again,
I don't think it's dampened enthusiasm.
No.
Go ahead, Burnsy.
Well, I was going to say, even to bring it back to the Big Ten, I'm staring at the Big Ten standings, and it's, I think by my Oakdale education, there's got to be around 8-9 teams that are between 3-4 and 4-3. Like you have some teams at the top, the Oregons, Penn States, Ohio States, Indianas, but I would argue on any given Saturday, teams 5 through 18 can beat each other. Maybe 17.
Sure.
I think Purdue is pretty dreadful, but even Purdue scored like 40 points in a half against Illinois 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
I mean, that's where you look at just the results across the Big Ten now. Where's your parity? Look at Michigan falling on themselves. Look at USC continuing to find ways. I think that was the 4th straight game they have lost where they've had a 90+% win probability. Which
that's tough.
That's insane. Is what it is. And
that's
hard. Talk about that Maryland game, but like this is what you wanted. I mean, I even look at this next 3-game stretch from Minnesota, which I think I looked at the advanced stats coming into this one. You have Maryland, Illinois, and Rutgers. I think what I used was College Football Insiders. They had the win probability for Minnesota somewhere between 48 and 52% for all 3 games. I mean, are you not entertained, everyone?
Yeah.
There ain't any blowouts on the schedule coming up here. So I just think this is what we wanted, was a little bit more parity. And I know people are pointing to, well, Ohio State and Alabama, and yeah, they're going to be good. But they're not as good as they used to be. They're not in 2 tiers above everybody else, and that's because of the portal.
Yeah, it's exciting. And by the way, I hope I'd love it if they went to 16 teams in a couple of years. I think that's what we're going to see. I don't know how they're going to make that work with the bowl games and campus sites, but I don't think they're looking to – I mean, it might be 12 forever, but imagine going to 16 and now you're talking about 20 or 25 teams that are going to be in that mix. Like I think they're going to see this and go, yeah, everybody's going to be okay. Everybody's going to be decent. There aren't any bad teams. Let's just keep rolling this thing and play 2 months of a tournament.
And you know what drives this? TV ratings.
Correct.
If they see monster TV ratings, add more teams to it and draw this out, because that's what drives college sports, TV ratings. I mean, that's what drives
that Oregon Ohio State game, like the most watched game.
Yes.
What was it? NBC or CBS?
And we said
like 2008.
And we said that it's like that is why you have conference realignment, because these TV executives care about big games, and the more big games you can give them, the more money everybody can make. And so if this expanded playoff does great, which I think it will, which is kind of funny because in the off season we hear that I'm never watching college sports again. Right. I'm never going to watch college football. They've ruined it. And then we get into the season and the transfer portal and all that goes away, and you just get caught up in the drama, the excitement, the big games, and we sort of forget about all the problems that we scream about from December to September, right?
Yep.
Where all this. So I would love it. I would love it. I think what we're going to continue to see. I still think the Big Ten grows to 20 at some point. I don't know how that looks. I mean, obviously, if they could ever add Notre Dame, but Notre Dame just signed that new deal with NBC that's going to pay them out, I think, pretty comparably to what Big Ten schools are getting from their TV, from their media rights. So I don't know that that's going to happen anytime soon. But if you could, I mean, just think about it. If you could expand the playoff and the Big Ten gets to 20 teams, then you have the 4 or 5 team pods, and then you can have your own little playoff building into the Big Ten championship, and then that goes into the. I know the old timers may think that that's too much or gone too far down the road, but I'm all in on this new format and how it sets up to really bring the drama nationally versus just a few local towns where only 2 teams are getting in or 4 teams are getting in, and then everybody else is just kind of watching.
Yeah, I think it's been fun. Last thing before we pause and then maybe spin around the Big Ten and talk about Gophers Maryland this weekend. Texas was fined $250,000 by the SEC for throwing things on the field after a random penalty was overturned. reminds me of being pelted by Busch Light cans at Kinnick Stadium, but there was no.
Actually, reminder, they were upset because there was no penalty, threw
Yes.
stuff onto the field, and then an unreviewable play gets reviewed, and then they do flag it.
Yeah, it's amazing to me, crew to crew, what I always like when they throw it to TV and the Mike Pereira is like, yeah, you can't review this. And then they'll go, after review, it's like what rule book are we all using? You know, whether it's the WNBA game finals, game 5.
Don't even go there. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm not. Trust me. But I had flashbacks to being almost pelted by Busch Light cans at Kinnick and water bottles and everything that was going on. There were no such ramifications or repercussions, I guess, down in Iowa City that day. But it got so. Here's what I love. Number one, Matthew McConaughey puts out a statement, basically telling.
all right.
But people are saying it wasn't all right. He's telling Longhorn Nation, you know, we got to be classier than that. You know, Matthew McConaughey's statement, which is just so perfect, just so good. And the other thing, here's what you need to tell your kids, Chipper, and tell everybody: you're always being watched because technology is so good now.
Oh yeah.
Students are getting emails now saying we identified you from your seat throwing something on the field. You are no longer welcome here this season. Like their tickets are getting yanked. So they're taking it seriously, which they should. You can't throw stuff on the field.
It's dangerous. Yeah.
Like you just can't do it unless you're in Iowa City and all bets are off. You can do whatever you want down there. And Cooper DeJean's grandparents will put it wasn't a fair catch on their Christmas card.
Yeah.
Other than that, you can do whatever you want. But it was anyway.
How close did you come to getting hit by a beer can that day?
Hard to know. I was taking it from all sides, Chip. It's just the fog of war. The fog of war. I'd like to be able to tell you. I don't know exactly.
I heard that there were Gopher players that got pelted with full Busch Lights on their helmets. They got smoked in the head. Now,
I will say, like, that's not abnormal for just normal Iowa City. Like, things get thrown. Like, not to that extent.
Yeah.
But and by the way, I shouldn't just limit it to Iowa City. Like it's happened other places too, where, especially when it's that close. Kinnick is just so close; it's just pure insanity. It's a complete. I mean, everyone should experience it once, just because, especially for like a mid-afternoon game when it's like 60 degrees all day, and it's not like people are pacing themselves. It's a mess. And I mean, I always tell the story about the former president. What was her name? Joan Gable. As I'm coming down to the field, she's going over to get a security guard to help out a man in his mid-60s that is just thrown up all over himself. And the game hasn't even started. The game hasn't even started. Like, I just got down to the field. I don't even know if they've done the anthem or the flyover yet. And President Gable's trying to help out this poor guy from Keokuk. So, yeah, it happens from time to time. But I don't think – I don't know. I'm sure players did get hit. I was kind of down – I was down somewhere by like the 25 or 30 to the end zone where DeJean scored originally. But they were on the field. Yeah, I mean, I removed some from the field. I helped in the cleanup effort so we could get that game going. But I don't think anybody was focused on me. I think they were trying to get it to the players. But anyway, that was a long time ago. That was actually like 1 year ago, like today. That was mid-October. It was late October when all that happened. So happy anniversary.
Did you hear what Kirby Smart said after that game in his post-game interview? They tried to rob us with calls in this place.
Yeah.
And he said that live on the interview on ESPN right after the game. He had some more pointed comments with the media. But, I mean, can you blame him?
No, it is crazy that guys can just get together and go, okay, yeah, let's do it this way. I mean, it's insanity. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist guy, but I see their point when that stuff happens. And to bring up the Liberty thing, I mean, when the commissioner's wearing a New York skyline dress, what are we supposed to think? Like, what are the crazy people supposed to think? When the WNBA is tweeting out that the title is where it belongs, what are we supposed to think in that? Yep. We're already here.
Can you imagine the lack of self-awareness of a commissioner of a league to wear the outline of one of the teams playing?
They weren't ready. I said it all year with the Caitlin Clark stuff. The WNBA was not ready for the attention. They were not ready for the spotlight. They were not equipped to handle it. And it's unfortunate because the league, obviously, in terms of the players, is as good as it's ever been. And excitement is it's only going to take off from here. The buildings for the finals were electric, but they were not ready. Like it's not the mom and pop shop anymore, boys and girls. And
this
that's what I always say. I go, is there no one in your life Like, was the commissioner by herself all day? Did she get dressed at 8 a.m. and then just
There's not a PR person that says,
there's not anybody that says, hey, cool dress, probably shouldn't wear it. It's like just stupidity.
Who was more unprepared, the WNBA commissioner or Deshaun Foster at Big Ten Media Days?
The WNBA commissioner, and that's saying something.
Yeah.
And that's
UCLA's in LA.
UCLA's in LA. I have heard that. I have heard that. How about UCLA though? Well, they got a win over Rutgers. It's kind of ruining Burnsy's narrative in a couple of weeks. Hold on.
It is not.
Put a pin in it. Put a pin in it, because when we come back, we'll spin around the Big Ten and see what happened. We got speaking of playoffs, Iowa thought they had an outside shot at the playoffs. That's dead now that they lost to Michigan State late in the evening on Saturday night. We've got UCLA to talk about, and Maryland, who I gave up on. They were down double digits to USC. And then I was at what game was I at? Saturday? I don't know where I was. It's bye week. I have no idea what I was doing. And I said, they actually lost that game, talking about the Trojans. We got all of that to talk about when we come back on the Pair and a Spare podcast. But we'll pause here and talk about our friends at Jack's Cafe. Longtime partner now of the podcast. I think I can say that now that we're entering season 3, or in the middle of season 3. JAXcafe.com to make your reservations. I'll say the family of a high-profile Gopher student athlete texted me on Thursday and said, what's the best way to describe it? We got to watch the team practice today, and we're going to Jack's Cafe after on your recommendation. I said, do it. You won't be disappointed. Say hi to Bill. They didn't see Bill. So Bill, you missed out on more Gophers just rolling through Jack's Cafe, but it's the perfect spot. If you're on campus, if you're hanging out downtown, if you just want to roll in for a date night from wherever you may live, Jack's Cafe is the perfect spot to do it. They've got unbelievable food. The ambiance is second to none. The drinks are terrific. The parking is first class. It's just, as I say every week, you're not going to have a bad time at Jack's Cafe, guys.
Yeah, and I have a birthday coming up. Where should I go? Of course I'm going to Jack's, right?
I would say
Monday.
Jack's Cafe.
Even for a guy as old as me.
65 this year, Chipper?
That's right. I'm getting closer. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to celebrate at Jack's. Wife said, where do you want to go have dinner for your birthday? It's like, come on. That's the perfect place for a dinner, right?
It is.
Birthday dinner.
And you'll get the matching books that'll say happy birthday, Chip. I'm sure Bill's listening, so he'll have those ready for you. Happy birthday, Chip. Right. It'll be great with an exclamation point. It'll be great for you.
And that's where we had a listener, Travis, who sent us a message saying he's going to be going there for his son's birthday because of our recommendation. So whether it's birthdays, whether you want to go grab a drink, we still got brunch season. We still got patio season.
It's 80 degrees today.
It continues to be astronomically warm. That patio is going to be looking something fierce. So whatever you got, where can you go to make a reservation, Mr. Justin Gaard?
That's jaxcafe.com, JAXcafe.com. And don't forget, holiday dining right around the corner, too. We've got Thanksgiving coming up. We've got holiday season coming up, New Year's Eve coming up. They've got stuff for everybody. I think they have a New Year's Day brunch, by the way, which sounds like an outstanding way to just chill after a night of beer games and playing dice or die, whatever it's called. But they can also handle your office parties, 15 to 400. They've got room for groups of any size. So check all of it out. Tell Bill that we sent you, jaxcafe.com. Let's talk Illinois, Michigan, first of all, real quick. The Illinois throwbacks was my favorite thing of the whole weekend.
Yeah.
Because not only everybody does throwbacks, everybody does retro, but this tells you how crazy college football staffs are and equipment managers and all the details that go into it. They made the helmets look like they were leather helmets from the 1920s. And it took me a minute to figure that out. I'm watching the game. I said, they actually have helmets that look like the helmets that they used to wear. It's like the leather helmets. Sources saying it took 2 hours a helmet to get that done.
Who had that job?
To get the equipment staff. The equipment managers, they have to work. They really have to work. I mean, that's a weekly deal because they all have helmets, but then everybody has different decals and they have different things. Like for Goldie's birthday, the Gophers put Goldie on there. Like everybody's got different stuff. It's all insane. And the poor equipment guys and gals have to be in charge of all of it. And the Illinois throwbacks were epic. And then it was just a dominant performance by Illinois. And there goes Brett Bielema again. As I said, the day he was hired, that guy, he knows how to win. Whatever you think about him, he knows how to run a program. He's a good coach. And Illinois, as Burnsy said earlier, 6-1.
Well, we said this when he's hired. Brett Bielema belongs in the Big Ten.
Yes.
The way he coaches, I just don't know that it was ever a great fit in the SEC for him. But in the Big Ten, he fits. And it used to drive me sorry if my screen's shaking. My dog's here wagging her tail, hitting my table.
We just plowed through it.
That's right. You know, when he was at Wisconsin, it used to drive me crazy when he didn't get the credit. It was, because of Barry and all that. But the guy can coach, and that was a great hire by them, and they play a certain way, and his style just fits with the Big Ten, and that's going to be obviously the Gophers' record against him ain't good, and so that's going to be they have a tough game Saturday, obviously, but that trip's going to be a difficult matchup for him.
Yeah, Burnsy, if you did an AI rendition if you just typed in Big Ten football coach, Brett Bielema would pop up.
I hope it's a shirtless photo too.
Yeah, the one from spring break where he's double fisted. Yeah, that's brilliant.
That's great.
But that's Big Ten
awesome.
Football too. That's Big Ten country too. That's every relative I have from Iowa just going shirtless, double fisting a plastic cup. Why not? You can smoke them if you got them.
I think Illinois, to your guys' point, is got to be top 3 in the Big Ten and how well coached they are. I have a ton of respect for that staff and what they continue to do. I mean, I know that we all got to see Bart Miller, who's their offensive line coach, when he was here for the 1 year with Tracy Claeys. But I mean, you win a game in which you threw for 80 yards. You were outgained. How? Michigan gets 3 turnovers. You have none. You take advantage of them. You don't shoot yourselves in the foot. To me, that's a well-coached team. Now, to the helmet point, I'm so glad that they didn't do some sort of like glossy finish. I'm so glad they left it matte to really kind of get the feel of we're back in 1924.
It was awesome.
Yeah. I mean, but here's the thing. If you're going to wear those uniforms, you better win that game.
You better win, yeah.
You better win that game. And they were able to. And now Illinois gets a very difficult test before Minnesota comes to town, is they get to travel to the West Coast to take on number 1 Oregon.
Yep.
But this is an Illinois team that just continues to outperform expectations, and I think a lot of it has to do with their coaching.
Chipper, were you on the beat when Mace blamed the throwback uniforms for why they didn't
I'm sure I probably was.
They almost lost to North Dakota State. They had to block the field goal. It was before they ended up losing to NDSU the last 2. They had to block the field goal, and they wore uniforms from the 60s, and Mace said he thought it was a distraction, which was not the right thing to say.
Was that
oh, boy.
I'm sure I was there. Was that when they had would that have been 04, 05?
I think it was like 05, 06, somewhere in
05, 06. Yeah, well, I was on the beat. Yeah, I can't remember. Yeah, I was there.
It was something like that. Yeah, because then a few years later, Tyler Roll came in and rolled
Tyler
over.
Roll was Bruce's first year.
Yeah, that was Brewster. And then in Jerry Kill's first year, Marcus Williams had a pick 6 right before halftime and knocked him off.
Yep.
But the time before that was a grinder of a game, and the Gophers blocked a field goal in their throwbacks. And Mace thought that might have been a distraction. And so maybe he was trying to distract from what actually happened out there, but it was pretty funny. Elsewhere in the Big Ten, how about UCLA going across the country after another disappointing loss and knocking off Rutgers? In the Eighth and Callie McManus show, the brakes have fallen off that one. He got off to a quick start, which was noted by one of your colleagues, Chip, at the paper. And
did we ever get a follow-up on that?
I don't think we've gotten a follow-up tweet from the senior columnist on how Ethan's doing, or Max Brosmer. But that's that's standard operating procedure for the paper of record in Minnesota sports. Thankfully, nobody under 30 knows, but it is what it is. So, but UCLA taking care of Rutgers in Piscataway.
Well, the UCLA quarterback can deal, man.
He was good against Minnesota, and he was great against Rutgers. He was throwing dimes all over the field the entire game.
32, 38, 383, and 4 touchdowns for Ethan Garbers.
He also had a long touchdown run, too.
Yeah. When you look at their schedule, I mean, that four-game lead up to the Gopher game, it was, Indiana, Oregon, LSU, and Penn State. So, okay. And then I don't necessarily think it's a talent thing with them. They just were have been undisciplined. I mean, the penalties they've had have really have hurt that team. I didn't look at him and think, man, their talent's really bad. And particularly when you have a quarterback that can throw it like that, you're going to give yourself a chance to win some games. And they look at the Minnesota one as probably as ones, man, that's a game they should have won. If they'd have been a little more disciplined, they probably would have.
Yeah, the Rutgers thing is they're banged up. And again, Ethan didn't give up 35 points on defense.
Right.
But you look at Rutgers quarterback play in the Big Ten so far. Through 4 Big Ten games, they're completing 48% of their passes, 2 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and a passer rating that is 17th in the conference at 94. Whereas on the flip side, your Golden Gopher quarterback is completing 67% of his passes against Big Ten opponents, which is 7th best, and his passer rating is at 127.
That seems tweet-worthy. I mean, that seems like it seems like something that could be tweeted out, but it's just one man's opinion. The other thing we need to talk about is Wisconsin good?
Yeah.
All of a sudden. Now I know it's Purdue and Northwestern that they've beaten here in the last couple of weeks. They beat somebody else in between there, but all of a sudden the Badgers, we talked about it a month ago. The players are, former players are tweeting out about the direction of the program. The fans are going crazy. People are waxing nostalgia about the Brett Bielema era. I think we told them at the time you should, with the 3 Rose Bowls. But here comes the Badgers all of a sudden continuing to get better with a backup quarterback because the starter got hurt about a month ago.
Yeah, they're actually scoring. I think they're playing a little bit better defense, but they got Penn State this week. So
reality's coming?
Well, let's just see. You're obviously jumping up in competition, and let's see what it looks like against a better team. But I do think they're playing better. I think they're starting to find a little more rhythm offensively with this quarterback. Luke Tressel's brother is the defense coordinator. I didn't know that until I forgot that that was his brother. I saw Luke at a high school football game, and we were talking about it. And Luke's doing well. You probably remember Luke from he was on Mace's staff as the wide receiver coach. Really good guy. And
there's a lot of Tressels out there, rivaling only the Kubiaks and Shanahans. There's a lot of from Dick Tressel on down. There's a lot of Tressels popping around.
That's right. So but this I was texting my son last night, and I think campus is starting to feel a little bit better about football and kind of has some excitement. And obviously,
we'll see if that student section for Wisconsin finally shows up for an NBC night game against the number 3 team in the country, or if they.
I'm guessing they will. Is it home? I think it's homecoming for them this week too.
It is. I mean, that was the easy part of the schedule, and they passed that test with flying colors. I mean, you allowed something like 16 points, and you scored 30 something. All right, now you get Penn State. Then you're on the road at Iowa City before a bye week to prepare for the number 1 team in the country in Oregon. And then the week before they play Minnesota, they are on the road at Memorial Stadium. So we just talked about that UCLA stretch before Minnesota.
It's a gauntlet.
This is a gauntlet for Wisconsin. This was part of why their win total was only, I think, 6.5 or maybe 7. But they've passed this test with flying colors. I mean, they're rolling right now. Now we're going to see, because I'll say this. I know Penn State's the number 3 team in the country. I don't know that they should be. I understand because they're undefeated.
Yeah.
But I don't think Penn State is clearly better than this Wisconsin team.
They haven't been they haven't been impressive. Yeah, you think the number 3 team in the country that's undefeated is just rolling, and that's not the case. This will be. I mean, you look at that stretch, and every Big Ten team is going to go through it. It's like it just reemphasizes, man, this conference alignment, how much harder they made the football.
Yeah,
I would love to have a beer with the coaches where there's off the record and listen to them talk about their schedules and how much more difficult the job is now. Because I mean, we look at what UCLA went through, and now they're facing this stretch of 5 games. There's no.
Think about Washington. Washington had to be at Kinnick 2 weeks ago. Then they, come back at a bye. I think now they got to go back to Indiana. It's crazy. It's crazy. But we are the beneficiaries. We talked about it 30 minutes ago. We want to see these fun games. We want to see these big brands. You want to see different places. Like, the players and coaches might not wait till basketball season when you drop a home game that you're not supposed to, and then you got to go, women's basketball, you got to go play juju, like
that's right.
Or you got to go to Carver Hawkeye with Lucy Olson in front of 15,000 screaming Iowans. Like it's basketball is going to be the same thing. Like you might be the 12th best team in the conference and be like a 6th seed. Like it's just a crazy deal with how all this thing is shaking out.
Or even like your Maryland team last week, where Guardsy counts him out for dead. Michael Lance, Gopher Lore, 2019 kicker, lines up with 2 minutes left for a 41-yard field goal. It's 28-22. If he hits it, game's over.
Yep.
It's tipped, blocked, doesn't go. Billy Edwards, who I could spend the next 10 minutes talking about Maryland's quarterback because I think he is the real deal. Leads him down the field. They score, take the game. And Maryland comes back from the dead, and now they got a little bit of momentum coming in here to homecoming, Chipper.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get a chance to see them, but that's an impressive win when you find a way to win a game like that, and that's what you have to do. Like in this league, you have to find a way to win a game that maybe you're not expected to win if you're going to salvage a season, right? Because it's they're just it's so hard, and I'm excited to see them. Maryland to me is always a weird team to try to figure out, and they've traditionally been a weird team because you don't think about them a lot, but when I see them, I always wonder, like, they got pretty good talent there, and they're in a great recruiting area, and they're always one of those sneaky teams that I never really get a good handle on how good they are.
Yeah, they're very talented. I also say Minnesota and Maryland play some weird games.
Yes.
Especially in the Fleck era. I think
they've played a lot. They've played a lot.
Yeah, I think back to like that 2020 game at Maryland where Minnesota ends up losing on a missed extra point in overtime. Yeah. But there always just seems to be a ton of points. I'm looking at it right now. In the last 6 games, the winners had at least 31 points. And in the last 4, at least 34. I mean, there's going to be some points put up. And I also tell you, like this Maryland offense, so Mike Loxley took over the play calling off the bye week. So they've played 2 games since then. They're averaging like 56 dropbacks a game. They have completely abandoned the run. No regard for human life with the run game. They got the number 1 receiver in the Big Ten in Ty Felton, who leads in like targets, receptions, receiving yards. Their number 2 receiver is 4th in the Big Ten. And I'm telling you, this Billy Edwards kid, he can throw it now. So it's going to be very interesting to see how Minnesota tries to combat them. They had the bye week to prepare. You had a bye week to try and figure it out, get a little bit healthier, especially defensively. I mean, you need to get Maverick Baranowski back in the worst way. You need to get Jalen Logan Redding playing more than 6 snaps a game. You need to get Kerry Brown and Aiden Gooseby back. But I'm telling you, this Maryland team hasn't really missed a beat without Taulia this year. I'm telling you, but that offense can move the ball now.
Yeah, they lost 42-28 at Indiana, and then strangely got crushed by Northwestern at home. That was leading into the USC game. So they've been weird. Yeah, they always – I'll echo everything you guys said. They always have dudes. They always have guys that are going to play on Sundays, especially on the offensive side of the ball. They always have a couple of skill position dudes that you're just like, oh, okay. Then you look, he's from Virginia Beach, Virginia. Yeah, that makes sense.
That's right, so that area.
Yeah. You can write this down. They call it the DMV. That's what they call it. I don't know if people know that. They call it the DMV. Yeah, write that down. Tell Alan True at 247 Sports to check out the DMV. Lastly, anybody watch the Iowa-Michigan State game? I kind of forgot they were playing because it was such a full day of college football. And at Michigan State and Jonathan Smith's first year, and obviously with Joe Rossi being there, they've carved out a nice little year 1. Or year 0, whatever you want to call it, kind of hanging around and hanging in. I don't know if that was necessarily expected, given how everything went down with the previous regime.
Well, I think that he was highly regarded coming. That was a big hire. That was a good hire for them, a smart hire to get him to come there. Anytime you have a transition, I'm guessing they lost a lot of guys, right? And there's guys that don't fit what you're trying to do, guys that don't buy in, whatever. So their year 0 is, it's always going to be an adventure probably. But I think that's probably a pretty good coaching staff. And we know what Joe Rossi is, how respected he is, and Jonathan Smith, obviously highly respected. So it will not surprise me if that thing turns pretty quickly there, because they're going to have the financial backing with the NIL.
Yep.
They have that support. And Michigan State's another weird team, because I remember when I was on the beat, Mason and used to say it, like, they might be the most impressive looking team getting off the team plane in the bus, like athletically. They always had, but they were just, undisciplined and just never really. And then D'Antonio brought it in and brought structure and responsibility, and he had that thing rolling. So I didn't see the game.
Here's your stat of the night then, Chip. Michigan State never punted against Phil Parker's defense. Never punted.
Crazy.
I mean, that's
like you think it's the other way.
Points, but I mean,
when Iowa loses, I just assume the offense doesn't do anything. The defense plays well, and is
well,
it was kind of both.
Yeah. I mean, Caleb Johnson got loose for one long run, a 75-yarder, but that was essentially it. I mean, I know there's a lot of people calling for Cade McNamara to be replaced by Brendan Sullivan. I don't know that it'll fix it, but I'm open to suggestions. But I tell you, Michigan State putting up 32 points in a game where they never punted, and they have – I think Aiden Childs is probably my favorite is just my favorite quarterback in the Big Ten. He's the king of chaos. Like, you just never know. I mean, he has no fear of anything. He puts the ball in harm's way more than any other quarterback, but he also makes a ton of plays where you can see in a couple of years, I can see in 2026, say, that Aiden Childs and Dylan Raiola are the face of the Big Ten quarterbacks. I mean, you can see it, and this was finally a game where Childs was able to put it together a little bit more. But, again, I'll say it again, Team 6 through 17 in the Big Ten, they're all about in the same tier, and you can see games like this where Michigan State probably didn't have a lot of business winning that game, but they won it pretty convincingly.
Well, I'll just give you these stats, and I didn't see much of it, like I said.
Mm-hmm.
Nick Marsh, wide receiver, 8 catches, 113 yards, 14.1 average. Monterey Foster Jr., number 3, 5 catches, 100 yards, 20-yard average, and a touchdown.
Well, heck, they even ran the ball offense line like 35 times for like 5 yards a carry against Iowa.
You know why? Because they took shots down the field.
Yeah,
that's what you have to do against Iowa. Stop making them guard 8 yards down the field. It's not complicated. Make them guard. That's my modern offense. Modern offense. Take shots. Yeah. You have to make Iowa defend you. Especially we saw earlier in the season, their second cornerback was getting burned every week, right? They were all down on him. Iowa State did it. Whoever we played. It's like, it's just not that hard. I get it. Phil Parker is a genius, and Norm Parker was before him. But, like, you got to try. You got to try. And like you said, Burnsy, maybe he played with fire. He lived a little dangerously. But guess what? You were rewarded for it.
Right.
And you can – it's just – can you tell it just bothers me in the last 3 minutes of the podcast? Like, every time Iowa loses, you look, and it's like, they had 2 receivers go for 90-plus yards because they took shots. They took chances.
Yeah.
They didn't care. You might throw a pick. Okay, Iowa's going to kick a field goal. You can weather that. It's not that big a deal. It's just bizarre to me.
Well, they have their ability to make teams play tentative for fear of making a mistake, because they will choke the life out of a game with their special team. You're right. I mean, this has become the torch that you'll carry, for as long as we have the podcast. Yeah.
I want this on my tombstone. Take shots against Iowa. You have to make them guard you. You can't just go, they've got a great line and an All-American and they're so stout. It's like, we've seen teams move the ball against them. Like, there's just so much. And I get it. Everybody, we've all played sports, and you've all been on good teams and bad teams. Like, you walk into a building, you're up 10-0 before the game even starts, right? Just because of the mentality that your team has. And Iowa knows every game they come in, it's like, we're going to pin you deep and we're going to make you play defense, and our fans might throw bush lights at you on the field. It's too close, and good luck. Like, take your chances. But it's like, golly, I mean, Michigan State. Like, I don't think of them as like the Oregon, offensive, Lincoln Riley, throwing it all over the yard, and you got 2 receivers go for 14 plus. That's just, it's not that complicated. But anyway.
By the way, Chip, I'll ask Guardsy this question first. What % chance do you think Chip is still awake for the 10 p.m. kickoff between Rutgers and USC on Friday night?
On Friday night?
Mm-hmm.
I will probably be, because I am going to be in Chicago this weekend, seeing my daughter. So I won't see you guys Saturday, but I will probably be out Friday night. So hopefully it's on somewhere.
He's just keeping himself young. He was playing dice last weekend. He's going to hit the Chicago club scene. Can you imagine Chip in the Chicago clubs?
I can't. No, the bars do close at like 3 in Chicago, though. So be careful. Don't chase the night, Chipper.
Yeah, there's zero chance I will see closing time.
Chip, I got to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Do you own a belt cell phone clip?
No.
Okay.
No.
You're still young then. I don't mean.
But I am. You mentioned
here.
You did mention the portable charger. My wife ordered one.
Yeah,
so
I can't believe you didn't have that. I can't.
Well, I was worried. I'm not going to lie to you. I was worried. Halftime at Iowa State, I looked down and I was at like 60%.
Oh my god!
And I was. It's like
9 p.m. at that point. Of course you're.
But it was like I was on a deserted island trying to ration food, because I was like, if I check it too much more times, I had to save enough to get my Uber home back to the where I was staying. So it was getting a little hairy there. But we did go back to the dorm, and I charged up for 5 minutes before we went back to the fraternity. But I'm happy my wife did that, because she got it because we're going to Italy in the spring. But it's like, that thing could change my life. Like if I could have that on all time, like just walking around at a game or something. This is gonna be something special. I can't wait for that thing to arrive.
Yeah, it's you can get them at a lot of stadiums now too. By the way, they have them. You can rent them at Target Center. Now the problem is you got to put your credit card in, and I know you don't want people knowing
no chance
your
doing that. No chance doing that.
It's like a vending machine though. You just slide the card in, the charger pops out, and you get it. So
Chip,
now we're gonna have to know. Now there's gonna be. This is the secondary psychosis, Burnsy. Now we're going to have to know how much his portable charger is charged before he takes it out to charge his phone. Like, do I want to steal from the portable charger to get my phone charged? That's going to be a whole other percentage that he's going to have to worry about.
So you have to plug that thing in all night too to have it ready to roll, and then
I'm not sure, but they usually
give
work
you
pretty well.
instructions. You'll be able to follow. I'd also say, Chip, you got a little bit of an unhealthy relationship with this phone battery thing, my man. It's okay if it gets below 50%, especially at night. It's okay.
Well, you don't want to be stuck and like, oh gosh, I can't.
Where were you hurt with I just have to know as we close this out. Have you actually been stuck with a dead phone somewhere at any point?
No, but it's the fear of it.
And I also like that he doesn't want to be stuck in Ames, Iowa, population like what 250. I mean, it's like being stuck in Edina. You could probably find your way around. You could probably walk back if you really needed to.
Yeah, it was probably walking distance, but it would be taking a while.
You're not stuck like out on the Statue of Liberty waiting for the last ferry. Like you're there's all these. You're stuck. Oh, I didn't want to get stuck in Lawrence, Kansas, another town. It's like you're in a college town. Like it's not like I'm stuck.
Hitchhike?
Yeah, I'm stuck in Lincoln and I need to get to Omaha. You're stuck in these small college towns. I don't even think you can be stuck in those towns if you're staying in those towns.
I don't like it. I don't like to be below 50.
Now I will say on Thursday night I was a little worried about my phone charge because it was now, and Chip, you'll never do this, but your hotel room key, you can get the digital key where it's just on your phone in the app for whatever hotel you're staying at.
Yep.
Chip, you can just leave because you'll never do this ever in your whole life. But so when you're staying, like you got to have your phone charged if you want to get into your room. Otherwise, you got to stop at the desk to get an actual key. And I didn't want to.
You don't get a key?
No, it's on your phone. Then you put your phone right up to the door.
Mm-hmm.
It opens right up. It's incredible, Chip.
No,
it's incredible.
No. It's just like at the airline. Now, I do use my phone, but I still get the paper thing because you never know. Like, what if you get up there and your phone don't work?
Wait a minute.
And then the whole line's waiting on you. Yeah. You got to have backup.
I've done that every once in a while.
You got to have backup.
What?
What if you get up there and your phone's not working? Or you can't, whatever.
They'll probably let you on the plane. I mean, you're checked in and you're there 2 hours early. So
you got to have backup. I can't believe you don't get a key, hotel key.
Like, I can't believe you get 2 forms at the airport. That's insane.
That's just like when you go, like,
Don't you
parking
there
passes.
is
Just
no
give
ju-
me a
okay, you can
just
justify
give me
the
a paper
phone, but
parking
you
pass that
cannot
I can turn
justify
in.
the airport thing.
Yeah, you
Like-
don't like the credit card in and credit card out.
No, it's
parking.
like or just and download the parking passes on your phone. It's just like what's wrong with paper? Like what are we?
We're trying to stay green. It's about our carbon footprint, Chip. We're trying to make for your kids who are in all these college towns that you're worried about getting stuck in. It's about making sure the planet's there for them when they're done in your age, and their kids are going,
Yeah.
Dad, what is going on? What is going on? Oh,
Well,
I missed the ticket stubs, by the way. You can see back here, I've got all the ticket stubs, so I'm with you there. The digital
Same thing with
ticket-
menus. When I go into a restaurant, I don't want to scan anything. I want to be handed a menu so I can flip it over and look. Like I don't have to go scroll through my phone. Like it's just easier to look at a menu if it's in your hands. Like
You know where they have menus? Because we got to get out of here. Burnsy's head's going to explode. You know where they have menus? Jack's Cafe.
Jack's. I know. Of course they do.
JAX.
Bill's not changing. Bill, like that's why it's so great.
Remember when we had him do the QR code at our
Yeah, I do.
Jerry Kill watch party a couple of years ago? I don't know how to do that. Yeah, I can't do that. Chip, keep being you, buddy. Good luck.
Okay. Love you
Let
guys.
us know about the Charger, because it is nice to have a.
I think we'll have it for Chicago. So if I can get a picture of it, I'll send it to you from Chicago.
Please do.
Please
do.
Okay.
Burnsy, good luck. You versus the Deer. Hope it all goes well for you. And we will see you Saturday on Oak Street, Gopher Garden, when you join me for the pregame show. Have a good week, everybody. Go to Jack's Cafe, jackscafe.com. Make your dinner reservations, your brunch reservations, your holiday reservations. It's all good. Hope to see you all Saturday at Huntington Bank Stadium. And we will talk to you next week on the Pair and a Spare podcast.